We tend to think about saving the planet as one thing, and the economy as something totally separate. But what if that's not right? What if the tools of economics could actually help us fix our biggest environmental problems? Well, today, we're going to go hunting for the hidden costs in our everyday lives and see how making them visible might just change everything.
All right, so check this out. On the left, you've got factory pollution. On the right, commercial fishing. They seem like completely different worlds, don't they? One is about what we're putting into the environment, the other is about what we're taking out. But from an economic point of view, they're actually two sides of the exact same coin.
And that leads us to the big puzzle we're tackling in this explainer. And this isn't about blaming bad guys or good intentions. Why do our economic systems, again and again, lead us to overuse the very things we all need to survive? Well, the answer is hiding in plain sight, in costs that are usually invisible.
So, first things first, our job is to make those invisible costs visible. Let's start pulling back the curtain on the hidden price tags of our modern world. Okay, the big idea we need to get our heads around is what economists call an external cost. You might also hear it called an externality. It's basically a spillover cost. Think about it. When a factory makes something, sure, it pays for its workers and materials, but if its smokestacks pollute the air, that creates a real cost, like healthcare bills for asthma that someone else is forced to pay. Society pays.
And this, right here, is the absolute heart of the problem. It's the gap between the private cost and the social cost. A company sees its private costs, wages, rent, materials, but the true cost to all of us, the social cost, is that private cost plus the external cost of the environmental damage. And the price you pay in the store, yeah, it almost always leaves that second part out completely.
So let's take this idea and apply it to our first case, pollution. For an economist, pollution isn't just a mess. It's a classic market failure. And that's just a fancy way of saying the free market, left to its own devices, is totally getting it wrong.
This graph really lays it all out. See that lower line? That's the factory's private cost. Based on that, the market wants to produce a whole bunch of stuff. But look up at the higher line. That's the true social cost, with the pollution damage included. The ideal spot for society is actually way over to the left, where we'd produce less. That little triangle in between? That's what economists call deadweight loss. It's the value we all lose because we're making too much stuff and ignoring the true cost of the pollution.
So if the problem is a hidden cost that nobody's paying for, well, the solution seems pretty obvious, right? You've got to make the polluter pay. The question is, how do you do it?
Well, economics gives us a pretty solid toolkit with three main options. One, assign property rights. If you say a community owns the clean river, they can charge the factory for the right to pollute it. Two, a Pigovian tax. This is a special tax designed to be exactly equal to the cost of the environmental damage. And three, cap and trade. The government sets a total limit, a cap, on pollution, then issues permits that companies can buy and sell. It literally creates a market for the right to pollute.
Okay, so now let's switch gears. Let's see how this exact same logic, the same hidden cost problem, plays out in a totally different scenario. It's a famous idea called the tragedy of the commons.
So what is it? Well, the tragedy happens with any resource that's open to everybody but owned by nobody. Think about the fish in the ocean. Since no single person owns them, there's no incentive for any one person to hold back. In fact, the incentive is to take as much as you can as fast as you can before the next person does.
And wow, does this graph of the Atlantic cod catch tell a story. For hundreds of years, you can see the catch was pretty stable, pretty sustainable. But then, look what happens around the 1960s when new fishing tech comes along. The catch just explodes, and then, just as fast, the whole thing comes crashing down. It's a perfect and tragic real-world example.
This quote from the New York Times just nails the mindset, doesn't it? From a single fisher's perspective, it's totally logical. Why should I save a fish? If I don't catch it, the next boat will. It's a rational choice that leads to a collective disaster.
And if you look at the economics of it, you're going to notice this looks really familiar. When fishermen only think about their private costs, their boat, their fuel, their crew, they overfish. The social cost, the fact that they're wiping out the fish stock for everyone forever, gets ignored. And what does that create? The exact same deadweight loss for society that we saw with pollution. It's the same problem.
So, how in the world do you escape a tragedy like this? Well, not surprisingly, the solutions look an awful lot like the ones for pollution. It's all about fixing the incentives.
And again, we've got three main tools in the box. You could try to assign property rights, but that gets really tricky in the middle of a giant ocean. You could just set a hard limit, a production quota, on how many fish can be caught in total. Or you can use a clever market solution called individual transferable quotas, or ITQs. And yep, you guessed it, that's basically cap and trade, but for fish.
So how do ITQs fix everything? Well, by setting a total limit on the catch, the government creates a fixed number of rights to fish. And these rights, these quotas, can be bought and sold. All of a sudden, the right to catch a fish has a price tag. It becomes a real cost of doing business. It's brilliant, really, because it forces fishermen to factor in the scarcity of the fish, perfectly aligning their private goals with the long-term health of the whole fishery.
So let's bring this all home. Here's the big takeaway. Pollution, putting too much bad stuff in, and overfishing, taking too much good stuff out, they are not different problems. They are two faces of the exact same economic challenge. In both cases, the market price is lying about the true social cost. And our real job is to tweak the system so that what's good for an individual is also good for everyone.
And that leaves us with one last really important question to think about. The economic tools to deal with these problems, these taxes, these property rights, these cap and trade systems, they exist. We know how they work. They give us a clear path to manage our planet more sustainably. So if we have the tools, the real question is, what's stopping us from using them?